There we go. All right. So we are back after a little bit of a break. I think the commissioner needed the break. I think that's what happened. I think handling the draft was a lot, and I think next year we might dumb it down a little bit just so it's not so much.
I
But
know what you're talking about. It was seamless for me. I had a great time.
I liked the draft live stream. I thought it went well. I thought it added some extra excitement in. But I think we might go back to our roots next year. That's all. We might just enjoy the draft together, do the 10-man in a Discord, and just see what happens. That being said, it was a great draft this year. Very excited to see how the rest of the offseason develops. We're kind of in the dead spot now. This is kind of the time of the offseason in the NFL. Mini camps just ended. You got about a month and a half until training camp. So we're going to try our best to get a couple more of these podcasts out to hold us over until the start of the year. But there's no shortage of stuff to talk about over the last, month or two since the draft. I mean, we've had trades, we had the draft, we've had lots of shit talk going back and forth. There's plenty to talk about on some podcasts. So we're going to start off this.
We are a 12-month league, Eric. I don't know.
This is a 12-month league. We have fans in Germany. We have fans in Lithuania, people that really want this content. And, I always find it funny. We post these videos and then I'll go back to my YouTube channel and I'll see that we have like 38 views. I'm like, who the fuck is viewing this? Like our draft live stream, had like 60 views. So I was like, I guess somebody else wanted to see what the draft was all about. So anyway, we're going to start off this podcast. We're going to review some trades. We've had some huge trades in the last, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, specifically about our good friend Tibbs. So let's bring up the graphics.
Tibbs.
So this is content godfather Tibbs. It is the great Tibbs fire sale of 2021. He blew this bitch up
all the way up.
I don't think Alex has had his fire sales in the past, but I don't think anything can top this one. He traded 4 arguably top 30 players in a span of maybe 5 to 7 days. I mean, it was just an absolute destruction. We can start right at the top with the 2 big receivers. So Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill netted him 4 first-round picks in 2 seconds. And Paris Campbell too.
I mean, that seems fair. I mean, they're top 5 receivers in Dynasty. It's pretty much the going price, the asking price for them.
Yeah, I would say, I think Hill, with some of the uncertainty with Davante Adams and having Aaron Rodgers there, maybe cost a little bit more. You can see I messed up the graphic. It should be a 2022 and 2023 first. So I'm kind of putting off my payments until 2024 and giving myself a shot in 2023, which is probably that little dip because of Aaron Rodgers. Otherwise, they should basically be ranked, the same, probably get the same return. But Hill, in his prime, no chance that Pat's going anywhere. You got to pay up for these kind of guys.
Oh yeah.
But in our scenarios, more yours than mine. You could kind of look at your team and say, hey, we needed a receiver, and your receivers aren't bad before this trade, but they're really good. Like this is, you got DJ Moore, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Cortland Sutton. And what was the AJ Brown? Sorry, I knew I was forgetting something very important. So now the top 3, you bump Cortland Sutton down into the flex spot, and your top 3 is Hill, DJ Moore, and AJ Brown. That's as good as you can get probably in this league. And in this league, you got to have good receivers to win. We've talked about that ad nauseum at this point. So how do you feel about the trade? I mean, it's your trade.
In my eyes, Tyreek Hill is the number 1 dynasty receiver. Just on the board, if you're going to do a startup, it's like him, and you could have a conversation maybe about a couple other guys as far as just who would you take first as a receiver, and you take the guy that's linked with Patrick Mahomes. So
yeah, I mean, usually when you associate yourself with high-powered offenses like that with good coaching, that's usually a good sign. And Hill is just, I mean, obviously I know him best because I traded him for a box of chocolate, but I mean, the guy, he goes off, there's a couple of duds every here and there, but like when he's on, there's just no stopping this guy. And I think he's going to be good for the next 3 to 4 years. I mean, until he loses a step, which it doesn't really see. He seems like one of those freaks that might just never lose it.
It's funny is like he's got this reputation still as kind of like a boom or bust kind of guy, but he was one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL last year.
I think I remember like 1 or 2 games maybe, and this is like this is so nitpicky, but like there's 1 or 2 games where he just busted like any other receiver would. But like when he goes off, he's going for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's just like this guy's insane.
The bust rate for receivers in the NFL now is like 50%.
Yeah, I mean,
depending on like outside of like maybe like the top 4 or 5 guys, like 50% is about where everybody is, just with how random an NFL game can be and so many receivers on each team that are able to just make a play.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that I mean, I'm not sure on the exact stat for this, but Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams might be the highest as far as points per game in the league. Like they're just incredibly consistent when they play. So I think this trade for you makes a ton of sense. Just giving yourself a shot to have, a formidable wide receiver core to go along with the 2 running backs, Clyde and Johnny Taylor there. So now that team is looking real solid.
And I had I made this trade before you made your trade for Adams. So like I had the option as well.
Yeah, you set the market.
I honestly have no idea what the hell's happening in Green Bay. So it just scared me off just a little more. So I just decided to go with the known quantity. Yeah,
I think Hill is I still think Adams is talented enough to be a little bit quarterback proof. But I do think that Hill, just provides that safety that, if you're going to trade that much capital, you kind of want to have something that you really believe in. So I totally get that. But I mean, Adams for me, I'm just looking at everybody else making moves to improve their teams. And I just didn't really do anything to improve my team up until this point. I felt like my team only got worse with basically the death of James Robinson and Melvin Gordon kind of getting shit on a little bit in the draft. So I'm trying to look at ways to how can I maximize my team, while this window, I've talked about it all the time, 3-year window. That's my team's slogan. It's on the walls here at league headquarters or office headquarters here. We got to win in 3 years. We want a dynasty in 3 years here. So we're going to basically just give it all just to see what we got for these next 3 years. We'll have Adams, we'll have Hopkins, Thielen, Kenny Golladay. We believe in this wide receiver core. So
let me know if this is a little too hot takey for you, but James Robinson is still going to be a top 24 back this year.
I shouldn't have said death, because death implies that he's never going to do shit again. He's still going to play. I just really don't know what to expect, and I really don't think anybody else knows either. I just think we're going to have to wait and see what the workload looks like.
That team was such trash last year, and he was still efficient. If their offense is average this year, that opportunity share is like he might not get as many touches, especially out of the backfield if you're bringing in ETN, but he's going to have so many more opportunities inside the 20 and 10 and the 5. I feel like.
Yeah, I
think it's gonna catch back up.
The only thing that truly scares me about ETN is just the fact that it's the draft capital. Like I think Robinson is a good enough back to at least get himself half the carries. Like if you watch the tape on him, everybody knew that they were going to run the ball. Everybody did, because they can't fucking throw with Gardner Minshew and Mike Glennon, all these jackasses. And he still produced like 5 yards a carry. He's a good back. He's a really good back. So it's not the talent that scares me. It's just like, are they going to feel obligated to give him 75% of the touches? Like, I don't know. And that's the only thing that worries me about Robinson. But I still think he's good enough to at least get half the carries, which at worst is going to be a flex player. So I'm cool with that. And he's J-Rob. He served his purpose last year. He gave me more than I could ever ask for. I'm coming to grips with the Travis Etienne thing. I used to bitch about it, but now I'm had enough time to let it soak in. So speaking of some other running backs, let's talk about Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler for 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, along with a rookie draft second-round pick, Terrace Marshall. So basically 3 seconds and 2 firsts for Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler. I mean, Mixon's probably still kind of fringe RB1 in Dynasty, right?
Yeah, he's on the back end of RB1s, I think, for me. I think both of them are, to be honest, just with how,
I like Eckler.
Both of those offenses are going to move the ball this year. I think they're both going to be pretty.
Do you think Eckler cracks the top 14 of Dynasty running backs this year, or just running backs this year?
I don't know if it's going to be, maybe not in our league, just because we don't have half point or full point PPR. But, receiving yards alone will probably get him. I think it's just going to be the touchdown number that's going to make that difference for him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have any real competition in the backfield. So
there is none. Yeah, last year when he was out, they didn't really have anybody step up and be like, oh shit, you got to watch out for this guy. Kalen Ballage kind of looked decent, and then they got rid of him too. So
yeah, and Josh Kelly got progressively, I think, worse as he got opportunities.
And he got benched too. I think he fumbled and he never came back. It's like Justin Jackson, and they only drafted Larry Roundtree in the 6th round. So I don't see any real reason for him to lose his job this year or even next year unless they draft somebody.
I don't see how he's not one of the top 3 running backs as far as targets and receptions this year.
He's gonna at least catch 60 passes for sure. He's gonna get tons of work. As long as he can stay healthy, he's gonna be a top 20 back guaranteed, no questions asked. He's gonna be an RB2 in our league. So James picks up RB2 minimum Austin Eckler. Joe Mixon, can he stay healthy? Will he finally live up to the hype?
They finally got a semblance of an offensive line in front of him.
Exactly. That's the big thing with him is Joe Mixon going to have something to work with? Thank God they have Burrow to kind of not stack the box. They actually have quality weapons now with Higgins and Chase.
Were his numbers better without Burrow last year?
It's a good question. I'm going to look it up right now because I feel I've always liked Mixon. I just never know, is he real or not though? I feel like he always gets this big hype every year and he has his moments, but he's just not quite reaching those numbers yet.
Yeah, if it's ever going to happen, it's going to be this year. So, I don't think if we fast forward to a year from now and Joe Mixon was a top 3 running back this year, I don't think either of us would be totally shocked. I think it's unlikely, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Joe Mixon in 2020, he surprisingly didn't have. He only had 1 100-yard game. The rest were under 50 or 60. Mm-hmm. So he was a little sluggish, but he caught a lot of passes. He had 6 catches in one game, 6 catches in another, 4 in another. So he's putting up points, and he had never had less than 15 carries in a game. So he's going to be a player as long as he can stay healthy. His history, if you look at that, he finished his running back finishes starting in 2017. He went 33, 9, 10, 49. So, this year was a wash because of the injury, but he's only missed outside of this year. He's only missed 4 total games. So it's just one of those situations where you have that recency bias. You're like, oh, he's always hurt. He's like, well, he's really not. He's kind of nicked up a lot. But if you kind of break down this trade, you got Mixon for a 2022 first and second. You got Eckler for a 2022 first and 2023 first and second. So they kind of both were traded for a first and a second. And then you just throw in Terrace Marshall, however you want to split that down the middle. So do you think you would trade Eckler for a first and a second? Would you have made the same move?
If I was James, yeah, I would have taken that trade.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
He's going to get crap for always selling his draft picks and stuff, but the value was there for him, and he got what he needed for his team.
Yeah, he needed it. And then if you look at, a draft like this year, if that pick ended up being 1.6 or 7 or some shit, you're not going to end up, with a guy even remotely close to the workload that Eckler or Mixon's going to get. You're going to end up with a guy maybe like an ETN or somebody just something questionable, whereas you know what's going to be the case. And both these guys are like Joe Mixon's 24 still. He was he came into the league at 20, I believe. He's young as hell. Eckler's 26. So like neither of those guys are anywhere near that like fall off sport, you know.
Yeah, and I know I don't know if this makes sense, but like he's kind of a young 26 for the workload that he's had to deal with so far in his career.
That's true. He really didn't play a whole lot in his first couple of years. Specifically,
he's very good in the passing game, so that'll keep his career alive a little bit longer than most guys. So,
yeah, we'll put it this way, Sean. He played 10 games last year and had 65 targets. So he was on pace for at least 100. I mean, it was just dumb. And then the year before with Rivers, he had 108, and he had almost 1,000 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. So he finished running back 8 in 2019. So there's still, ceiling to get for Eckler. For Tibbs, it's kind of a trade. If you're blowing up your team, just get, if you're going to trade away Adams and Hill, you got to get rid of everything because you're in full fire sale mode. So I am proud of Tibbs for, recognizing, this is what we're doing and committing to it 100%. Whereas a guy like Alex, seems to be bouncing around, I'm going to rebuild now and then I'm going to go for it. And then maybe I'll rebuild again. Like it's just, there's no commitment. And I can't wait to do, maybe we'll do a future outlook type of podcast in, the next couple of weeks or so to just look at how many picks Tibbs gets or, for the next couple of years. Cause it's just going to be sick. I mean, he's going to own the draft for the next few years. We'll be talking about him like we've been talking about Alex. So I'm really intrigued.
1, 2, 3, 4. I
mean, he picked up 6 first round picks.
4 first round picks plus his own. So he's going to have half the first round in this next draft.
That's not bad. I mean, in 3 trades, he netted 6 first round picks. Yep. And what appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you count the Leonard Fournette one, 5 second round picks. So yeah, Leonard Fournette for a 2023 third or a second. I don't even care about that trade. I think Fournette is fine. I mean, Scavelli, he's gonna get carries, so Scavelli will find some use for him. But I'm not sure I would have gave up a second for him personally. But it is down the road. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a report that came out today that they said like him and Ronald Jones are co-starters.
I mean, that's kind of what they were last year, though. I mean, so playoff Lenny took over.
Yes, playoff Lenny. I think the biggest question is, will Tibbs remember to show up to the drafts since he usually doesn't have to?
That's true.
Will he know?
It's been quite a few years of him having like 1 4th round pick and showing up a little bit late. So that's not true. He's always been there, but he's just not involved very much. So this year is going to be a huge change. And it's actually, I kind of think about it. It's going to be fun having somebody else to talk about rather than Alex having 15 first round picks. It's going to be a nice change of pace. So I'm looking forward to it as the commissioner. So anyway, that's the great Tibbs fire sale of 2021 in review. I love it for Tibbs because, just let's shake things up a little bit. Let's see what happens. And, if he does the research and drafts well over the next 3 to 4 years, this could be a monstrous team. Almost like very reminiscent of the Oklahoma City Thunder, basketball reference here. A lot of first round picks. He just wants the picks. So I'm okay with that.
I mean, I feel good like about each team's position, like on all of those trades too. Like obviously I feel good about mine. Like I wouldn't have made it if I didn't feel good about mine. Like I get like the reasoning for you and James's moves, like, and like I'm sure Tibbs is happy to get all the draft picks. So like hindsight with all these picks in there, but like I think that works out for everybody. I think everybody feels pretty good about it.
I don't think anybody loses. You don't look at one of these and be like, holy shit, you got a bad deal. Like somebody got robbed. I feel like all these make sense. So let's keep moving along. We got some more trades to talk about. So let's go to a couple of big trades, both of these involving the London Silly Nannies. So Well, let's talk about the first one. So the first one, and some of these are pre-draft, so I've tried to put in the parentheses who was actually selected at that position to kind of give more information on exactly what the trade ended up being for now. So the Silly Nannies traded 1.9 for a 2023 first, a 2022 second, or no, I'm sorry, traded 1.9, 2022 3 first and 2022 second for 1.6. And this was the one that really confused me. Before the draft, he traded it basically to move up 3 spots. 3 spots. He traded a first and a second and his current first. So that was a hefty price to pay up for 3 spots to move 1.9 to 1.6. And not only that, he took Trevor Lawrence, who I would be shocked if he went between those 2 picks. I feel like he didn't even need to make this trade. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I have thoughts. I forgot about this until now. So, how many teams are in our league, Eric?
I believe 10, Sean.
And how many quarterbacks do we all start?
I believe 10.
So what's the value of a quarterback in our league?
Somewhat devalued.
Somewhat devalued. So you traded away 2 first-round picks for a quarterback.
And a second.
To pick up a guy that is probably going to have the same amount of top 12 finishes this year than, I don't know, Jimmy Garoppolo or, I don't know, name another like middling quarterback his rookie year.
Garoppolo's probably not going to play.
Well, sorry, bad example. Let's go,
maybe like Daniel Jones.
Let's go with like Daniel
Derek
Jones.
Carr.
We'll go on that route, right? So unless you were trading up into like a position where there was going to be a tier break and like a running back that you needed was coming off the board, this trade is just fucking stupid and doesn't make any sense.
He made it pre-draft, Sean, which makes it worse because he really didn't know who was going to end up at 1.6. Not only that, he made this draft, I believe, before the NFL draft happened. So he didn't even know where the landing spots were, as far as I remember. I could be wrong on this, but I mean, if that's the case, and especially for a quarterback too, that he could have easily gotten at 1.9. Easily. No questions asked. Because who's between 1.7 and 1.8? It was Dustin and shit, I can't remember. It was Dustin. Oh, Dustin's not taking a quarterback. He's got like 11 of them. I mean, there's no chance that he would have been taken before him. Nobody was going to take a quarterback in the first round except for Alex. So why do this? Why do this? I mean, 2023 is a little ways away, but you're still giving up way too much capital to move up 3 spots for basically a player that you needed the player, but you didn't have to do it. So the Nannies got smashed in this trade. I hate to say it, but that was not a win. Moving on to the next trade, arguably
Let's go.
a little better, I suppose. But all right, this starts before the draft. Alex Morales is out here in Dallas. We're talking about, he's like, oh, maybe I should trade Mark Andrews. Maybe we'll trade Mark Andrews. It's like, okay, so you're going to take Pitts. He's like, well, I'm not really sure yet. So I'm like, okay, so you're basically saying that you're going to trade trade Andrews and leave this giant hole at tight end because he doesn't really have shit else. I think he's got Janu Smith, which is just whatever. So if you give away Andrews, you're giving away a top 6 tight end. He's gone. You leave that hole. You should probably fill it with Kyle Pitts, who's arguably the best tight end prospect since the league has started. So what does he do? He takes Najee Harris after telling me for a week that lock in Kyle Pitts at 1-1. So he takes Najee Harris. So now he's filled one hole and opened up another, and now he's literally playing whack-a-mole. He's like literally playing a freaking arcade game at this point. So I truly don't know what direction Alex is going. I thought I did. I thought when he was trading, Andrews, he was going to be taking Pitts and then maybe trying to back up, with the receiver and then take running backs next year or something like that. That is not the case. Basically, we got Alex trying to win and make it to the playoffs this year, with the 2 running backs that he took. So let's talk about the trade itself, I guess. Sorry, getting on my soapbox here. Mark Andrews and 2.1, which turned into a Rondale Moore for 1.8, 2.8, and 3.8. That was Jalen Waddle, Pat Freiermuth, and Ramondre Stevenson. So I'm not a huge Freiermuth fan. I'll start there. I don't really like him. I think he's fine. I think he has some Heath Miller vibes, which is a perfect fit, really in Pittsburgh there. I just wouldn't have spent a 2.8 on him personally. There's other guys I like better. So maybe a little bit of a reach there, but he did literally need a tight end because he opened up the hole. So it was like a necessary pick almost. I mean, to take that second guy. Jalen Waddle at 1.8, I thought he could have easily taken Trevor Lawrence at 1.8. I thought he probably could have flip-flopped Waddle at 1.6, and that would have looked a little better on paper, in my opinion. But, it doesn't really matter. He still ended up getting them both. He did take he did not have the option to take Devontae Smith, who went 1.7. So Waddle was kind of that last, guy before the tier break started. So I do give him a little bit of credit for, getting that top tier talent, top draft capital guy. But do you think, looking at this now, do you think this is a pretty balanced trade or no?
I guess. I don't know. Like you said, it really doesn't make sense, like his roster building.
Well, I just thought I knew it was going to happen. And he told me so many things before the draft that I was like, okay, well, if you do this, then you have to do these things. And he's literally just he went completely against that. So I don't know, now it looks like he's trying to win after, talking about, 2023, 2024, because he was telling me about the running backs next year's draft. But that is completely flipped now.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just a preference thing for me. I'm not big on Waddle. So, for me, I get that there's a tier break there, but
I've never really been the biggest Waddle supporter myself. I watched a ton of tape on basically everybody this year. But
you're gonna get Rondale Moore, who's gonna be in a higher volume passing offense and is gonna be, with his draft capital, I would assume, the number 2 receiver on that team to start the year.
Yeah.
Whether he is better than Waddle or not, but why wouldn't you do that if you're Dan?
Yeah, if you're Dan, this is an absolute no-brainer. You get 2.1 back too, so it's not even. This is a trade up if you really think about this. This is a trade up for Alex from 2.1 to 1.8, and then just look at all the other shit that got involved. It just feels like too much. And I know he's talked about trading Andrews for the entire offseason, but it just both of these trades feel like just giant overpays, and I still don't know if these values are going to end up evening out. I really don't think they are. So, now if you look at Alex's team, he's got, let's just kind of run over his overall lineup. He's got Trevor Lawrence. He's got kind of still a hole at receiver. There's still, he's got Waddle. He's got Higgins. Who's his top receiver?
Receiver on their team, number 2 receiver on their team, maybe 3 depending on Tyler Boyd. But
I thought he had another pretty decent receiver. But
Mims on his team too.
There's not. But he didn't get an elite guy at receiver. So
does he have anybody on his receiver on his team that's the number 1 on their team?
Let me look. So I see he got Jerry Jeudy in his top 3, but he kind of flopped for a rookie year, but he might be better. But if you just look at his team, the way his roster looks right now, he's got Higgins, Jeudy, and Waddle as his top 3. That's okay, but they're just so unproven. All 3 of those guys. Higgins played pretty well last year, but now he's getting kind of a downgrade with Chase coming back. So I'm not crazy about any of those receivers for 2022. 21, 22. I don't think any of those 3 guys really excite me this year. So for a team that's talking about winning now, it kind of doesn't look like a win now. It kind of looks like a win in 2 years, 3 years type of deal. Because I don't expect Lawrence to be like Andrew Luck right out the gate. I mean, I think it'll be good, but it'll take time. Swift and Harris both at running back. I mean, I love that, but I think that's also going to be like a 2-year project maybe to get those guys going. And then now he has no tight end.
If the Lions sign Todd Gurley, do you still love Swift?
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
No? Okay.
I mean, I feel like maybe if anything, he'll just siphon some goal line touches or some shit. But like,
yeah, it's just like I assumed that would be a move that the Lions would have made like 2 years ago.
I'm not even sure why they would do that if they already have Jamal Williams on their team. Like, I don't really understand what their process is. And they drafted a running back I like too.
Yeah, it seems like a payroll issue at that point. Why would you commit so much money to the running backs when you've got 2 good ones?
I mean, I know that
one really good one.
Yeah, I mean, Swift is a baller, so I'm not really sure what they're getting at with this, but I think maybe they want to kind of do that Saints thing where it's like Latavius and Kamara, but like
Jamal Williams is about as good of a like backup / second running back as you're gonna get in the NFL. I mean, he was great.
He might have been a starter, you know, if he went to the right landing spot in free agency.
Yeah.
So, anywho, I mean, we'll talk more probably about what teams look like, you know, for moving into next season now that the draft's over. But let's keep this moving. So we have this is a pretty big trade that happened between the Swallows and the Elk prior to the draft. You got the Swallows trading Curtis Samuel, Michael Pittman Jr., and a 2022 first, essentially for Javonte Williams and Anthony Miller because Jordan Akins isn't on the team anymore. He was cut. So you're basically trading Samuel Pittman and a future first for Javonte Williams and Anthony Miller. It seems like a pretty hefty price to pay for Javonte Williams. Basically, I mean, in my opinion, Curtis Samuel is probably worth like a second if you traded him straight up. So you're trading, you know, a first, a second, and then Pittman probably didn't lose any value from last year, so he's also a second. I mean, it's pretty pricey, but he's a good prospect. So, yeah.
I don't know if Pittman has much value. I feel like he gets talked a lot, but he really didn't do much last year. He had like
he was a sluggish start. He also was injured, I think, for a decent majority of last year.
What was his draft capital from last year?
He was a second round pick in the
right.
NFL draft. So he's a good receiver. You know, dynasty wise, like he's a guy that you kind of like want to have, I think, still. But he, like you said, he didn't really start off very strong. And he also was banged up quite a bit. So, I mean, I kind of like the guy, but I'm just not like in love with him.
My only concern is I don't know if they know what they're doing with their wide receivers in Indianapolis. Because
I don't think so either.
I mean, I don't know if they just took T.Y. Hilton back because they felt like they got a good discount on him because nobody wanted him. But then you get him, you get Pittman, and you have Paris Campbell, who was hurt all last year again. And you bring all those guys because Campbell was a second round pick too. So
yeah. I mean, all these guys, you know, I mean, really, they have a lot of options, but none of them have really stood out. I mean, Pittman had a couple games last year. I think he had 100 yards in one game, then like 65 yards in another game. Like he looked decent at times, but so the jury's still out for sure. And then now he gets a different quarterback, so who knows?
Yeah, I guess I would have felt pretty good if they would have been comfortable like just moving on from T.Y. Hilton, and you're like, all right, we got Pittman, we got T.Y. Hilton, we're ready to roll.
Yeah, I agree with that. That would have made me feel a lot better.
Do they still have Pascal on the team too?
Pascal's still on the team, I believe. Yeah.
So
I mean, here's the deal. The bottom line is that Vince needed a running back this offseason. He got Javonte Williams and Trey Sermon via those trades. So he gave himself chances to get a good running back this year. And Williams, I think, at least by next year is going to be a starter. So, and I love him. I think he's a great running back. So this makes sense to me. And I'm not really sure what it does for Dustin. I mean, he gets the 22 first, but he gives away an elite prospect. I mean, at 1.4, he could have taken, one of the big four, in my opinion, were, Javonte Williams, Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, Etienne and Kyle Pitts, like 5, I guess. Like he could have got one of those, but chose to take a couple of middling options and a future first, which might be lower. So I'm a little confused for the Elk, but I've felt that way most of the offseason.
I think like he just doesn't want to commit.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle. I mean, if you look at his roster construction right now, there's aging vets mixed with promising rookies mixed with like just mediocre guys, kind of like these Pittmans, like these Samuels. Like, I mean, Samuel's not mediocre, but he hasn't been balling yet. Like, I'm just confused on what the Elk are trying to do because there's so many conflicting trades and moves. So I'm interested to see how it all plays out, but we can keep moving on here.
Do we have a Dynabook bet on which rookie running back is going to finish highest? I would like to see
I don't think we've started any Dynabook for the rookies yet.
I would love to see my odds for Javonte Williams. If you could get on that, James.
This is going to be a James Seafood League Treasurer, Dynabook president. If maybe we can discuss some rookie Dynabook bets, just to.
I think we could reveal some bets, and that could be like our next podcast episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll have James on and we'll run through them all. That'd be pretty fun. That's a good idea.
There's definitely a world in which the Broncos trade for Watson and Javonte Williams is now mixed with a quarterback that is
how wild would that be?
Tier.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with Rodgers.
Their offensive line has gotten better in the last year, and I just I could see him just being the best running back from this class. If not even if all those things happen, he could still end up being the best running back from this class pretty easily. So
for sure. I mean, he was my RB1 prior to the draft. I like Javonte Williams more than I like Najee Harris. It's just a matter of, landing spot. And technically, I mean, if Javonte Williams went to the Steelers, dude, he's 1-1 for me. No question. It wasn't even a thought.
I don't even consider them a good landing spot for a running back.
Well, their line sucks right now. But the only thing that with the Steelers is he's going to get an ass ton of carries. And
they don't run the ball.
But who else are they going to give the ball? Fucking Benny Fishing Hook Snell. He's trash.
I hope it's a personnel thing, but it's been a few years, and they've been very much a pass heavy team.
I mean, yeah, they've been slinging it around, but I'm thinking, well, I believe they have a new offensive coordinator, first of all. Second of all, I think they got to realize that Ben's arm is just not what it used to be. And maybe they switched that game plan around a little bit. And they just invested a first-round draft pick in a running back. I feel like they have to run the ball this year. They don't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
That being said, they have so many good receivers. So,
you know who else was a first-round pick? Rashad Penny.
Oh, yes, he was. He's a big bust. And I loved Rashad Penny. He reminds me a lot of Javonte Williams now I think about it.
Oh,
holy
no.
Shit. I really like Rashad Penny, too. They have a very similar skill set, and they have the same number and every. Wow, this is bad. This is a bad parallel. Sorry, I'm putting this bad, no pun intended, juju on Javonte here for Vince. So. All right, we're moving on. So here's some smaller kind of just whatever trades. These are the ones that always get my gears turning because I just love any action. So start off with Traquan Smith for a 4th and a 3rd and fucking forever from now. I can't believe I got anything for him, so I'll take it. The Lambs traded 3.9 to you, which was Tylan Wallace for a couple of 4s.
On the Ravens, yeah.
Dude. We'll get to we'll wait. I'll wait on Tylan Wallace because I have things to say about him. James trades Irv Smith for 3.4. So basically, it was Kenny Gainwell for Irv Smith. I don't know. I kind of like that trade for both sides. I mean, it makes some sense. Irv Smith has a chance to break out this year, and Gainwell.
His role will not be expanded this year. I think from who's the head coach in Minnesota? It's Zimmer. I thought that was weird.
Yeah. I don't know why you'd say
that. Why would you
but...
trade Rudolph then?
Well, I mean, I feel like Rudolph was just such a replaceable player at this point in his career that it doesn't even matter. They could put anybody in that slot and fulfill that blocking role. Yeah, they could find fucking Luke Stalker or something like that and just get him out there.
Very underutilized for me.
he's totally underutilized as a pass catcher, but I feel like it's the product of that offense more than anything. So maybe there's a chance that they realize they don't really have a third receiver, and they're like, maybe Irv Smith can kind of be that third passing option. And then at that point, that looks nice.
Yeah, he's definitely option 4 at best currently.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's fine. And then Kenny Gainwell for James, gives him a decent lottery ticket. Maybe Miles Sanders sucks and just eventually fizzles out, and then Gainwell gets his chance and performs. I mean, Gainwell kind of reminds me a lot of like Antonio Gibson. So maybe there's a chance that that's a similar career path. We'll see, but maybe not quite as soon. And then the Hurricanes completed a trade with me. He traded me 3.2 and 3 for Tua. And I picked Nico Collins and Tommy Tremble with both of those picks. This comes after I I had grabbed Trey Lance with my second round pick. So I didn't feel the need to keep Tua around when I could build other spots. So
can we come up with like a fun punny nickname for Tua throwing 5 interceptions? I feel like we can come up with something like 5 Tua.
There's got a 5 of Viloa, Tago 5 Loa. I mean, that's the best I can come up with on the spot. I like Tua. I've always really liked him. I just feel like he didn't show me a ton last year. And if I could I picked him at 3.1 last year, so I ended up gaining some value just based on the fact that I got 2/3 instead of my third that I invested in him. I thought it was okay. And then quarterbacks always seem to just pop up in these drafts too, so you can just grab another one next year.
Okay, so let's use this for a frame of reference for Alex's trade earlier that we discussed.
Sure.
So you got 2 third-round picks for a quarterback. Alex traded 2 firsts for Trevor Lawrence.
That is correct, yes.
Who do you think has more quarterback 1 games this year, Tua or Trevor Lawrence? And is it going to be a big disparity?
I don't think the disparity will be that big, but I think Trevor does. I think they're going to have to sling it around.
I would agree with that. But
I was scared. And it's not that I don't like Tua. I'm just scared of the way the Dolphins treated him last year. They protected him so much. And I just I've never seen that before. So frankly, I just don't want to be involved in it until I see it. I mean, I think Tua could blow up this year and be awesome, but
and you know what? There's no risk.
Well, that's the thing. You trade a couple of thirds, and you don't have to, trade 2 firsts to get a guy. So
the value that he put on Lawrence, he has to be Patrick Mahomes.
He has to at least be Andrew Luck, at least, because Andrew Luck kind of was a similar type of guy coming out.
Retiring.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Luck came out. Everybody knew he was good. He was this just, untouchable draft prospect. I feel like it's very similar for Lawrence. So if he's not Luck, it's going to be a letdown. I mean, that's just the honest truth. Like, if he's not that good, and Luck was sick when he played. Like, when he wasn't injured, that guy was fire. I think he had that one year as QB1. He had like 50-something touchdowns. Like, he was insane. And I had him in redraft that year. So I don't know. I feel like, like we talked about, quarterbacks, probably don't want to invest too much in them. But like for Justin, you trade a couple thirds and pick up a nice guy to go with Burrow. I mean, just a lottery ticket into it. And, if he has the upside, give it a shot, see what happens.
With the receivers they have on that team, like he could easily.
The offense is nice.
Top 10 quarterback. Like
I would, and he runs. The kid runs. Like, that's the thing. It's like he's not like a statue either. So he's not like Davis Mills or some shit out there. I mean, he's gonna get some touches on the ground too. So I mean, there's a lot of upside for Tua. So I was sad to trade him away, but like at the same time, my team is kind of already built a different way at this point. So I'm just kind of going with.
By the way, I like both of the players you got for him. So
I'm a Nico fan. I don't think I picked Nico this year for this year. I'm picking Nico for whatever quarterback they draft 1-1 next year, essentially. Mm-hmm. So
he fits in well with like the rest of the roster of receivers too, because if I remember correctly, most of the receivers are under 6 foot, and
they got a bunch of Smurfs out there.
He's like 6'4", right? 6'5".
He's 6'4". He's the classic Eric mold receiver.
Yeah, he's a Keenum 2021.
Yeah, he could easily be that. He could be, Devin Funchess, but he could also be an Allen Robinson. Like, I mean, he's got that same kind of vibe that I look for. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not expecting anything out of him this year, but maybe next year. And then Tremble is a long-term project as well. So we'll see what happens there. But moving on. So let's get into some draft grades. This is going to be my favorite thing that we've done. I just love the draft. So now we finally know where people have gone, where the landing spots are. So let's get into it, and we'll start right with the Los Angeles Lambs and James Seafew. We can kind of already talk about Marshall because he is not on his team anymore. He's on Adam's team now, the Tibbs special. So Terrace Marshall as a player, I thought he was a nice value at 2-3. I'm a fan of the player. I actually really like the landing spot. A lot of people were kind of off on the landing spot. I kind of love it.
I tried my ass off to trade up for him. I got nobody.
I was praying he fell.
I was trying to get up to like 2-1.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the player for sure. I think he has that wide receiver 1 upside, whereas a lot of guys in this class didn't. And I also think the landing spot is really nice for him too. I think he's back with his college offensive coordinator, which people don't realize. Joe Brady was his offensive coordinator a couple of years ago, so he already knows him better than anybody. He got good draft capital. I think he was taking the 2nd or 3rd round.
And the offense supported 3 receivers last year
with a garbage fucking quarterback situation. So I think you take Marshall not really expecting a ton this year because, Darnold, nobody really knows. But then, if they if they acquire a quarterback next year and you got Marshall 1 year already into the system, it could pay really nice dividends down the road for the chili cheese fries. So, I mean, 2.3 was definitely the right value for him. I thought he could have gone on the back end of the first with a better landing spot, but I'm a fan. Kenny Gainwell at 3.4. Also pretty good value for the talent because better landing spot. He's in the 2nd round for sure. I'm just not really sure what the Eagles. I mean, we're gonna have to see how that offense looks.
So
yeah, I think there's a chance. If he gets used like more than what we're expecting, because I'm expecting Sanders to get a shit ton of touches next year. So if Sanders, doesn't look good, Gainwell could be that kind of next man up situation. And then 4.3, you got Captain America for the Bengals. He kind of has a decent chance to win a backup job, which is really honestly all you could ask for at 4.3.
He's getting the classic rookie minicamp buzz.
He's getting buzz. The player, I mean, coming out of school, I like the player. I think he's a bigger back. He's not going to offer you as much in the passing game. Kind of gives me, he's got some like Brandon Jacobs-y kind of vibes. Like he's not that big, but he's just kind of a rumbler and a bumbler, like Peyton Hillis or something like that. So like he might end up being, a decent option for as a spell, maybe for Nixon.
Sir, I just need to read you a snippet from the Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan on Chris Evans. He's got the most natural hands for a running back that I've ever been around.
Shit. I didn't see it in college, I'll tell you that. Because, then again, Michigan is completely incompetent using their running back. So
probably why Alex decided to scoop him up today, because of the hype buzz.
Must be the hype buzz. I saw something on him the other day too, but I mean, I liked him coming out. So I mean, I just never saw the hands. I don't know. Maybe it's something they saw in camp that I didn't see, but
I just can't believe somebody can actually make moves right now. I'm still 3 players over the limit.
I know I had to cut down pretty hard. It was kind of scary. But just another note too is that James had Chris Evans, and then had Mixon as well. So maybe he was trying to go for a spell. Well, he didn't know that at the time, but it would have been a nice thing to have, just an option as a handcuff. Let's put aside that he traded Terrace Marshall. What do you give this draft? Right after the draft, what would this grade be for you?
If we're just basing it just off of like value-based drafting, I mean,
yeah, this isn't like we're not taking into account that he ended up trading.
Probably like a B+, A- for me.
Yeah, I think we also need to point out too. We talked about already that he traded Irv Smith for Kenny Gainwell, so he acquired that 3.4 in the middle of the draft. So I mean, I think all the moves he made were good moves. I mean, I like all 3 of these players too as far as talent. And I'm all about drafting talent over situation most of the time, just because usually that pans out.
Especially when you get down to like the second, third, fourth round. Like,
yeah, the first round you can kind of shade more towards situation, just because you know who's going to get touches and draft capital is there. But when you get down here, I just like to take the best player on your board, talent wise. So James did that. I'll give him a B+ too. I mean, great value on Terrace Marshall, in my opinion. So we can move on to the Philadelphia Lamppost. Only a couple of picks. The 2 point, he basically traded all his picks to Alex in that Mark Andrews trade. So Rondale Moore at 2.1. I mean, is there a bigger boom bust player than Rondale Moore? I don't think there is.
I mean, if he's, like I said, if he's the second receiver on that team, like, how many targets is he going to end up having this year? Like 90+?
But do you really think he's going to be the second receiver on that team?
Why wouldn't he be?
I mean, they got AJ Green. They still have Kirk. They have DeAndre Hopkins. Like, they have guys. Like, I mean, I'm not excited about those guys, but like, I think it's going to be harder for him to get on the field.
You think AJ Green's going to play a game?
Yes, I think he plays at least one game.
All right.
I'm an AJ Green truther, though. I've been on his bandwagon since the very beginning, so that might be me just being a jackass. But
I think Christian Kirk is pretty much.
We know what he is, right?
Yeah, it's just not exciting.
No, but he's a fine depth player for the Cardinals. I mean, it's fantasy wise, he's useless, but I mean, the thing is,
scheme for their offense. Like, I would rather have Rondale Moore on the other side of the field from Hopkins, just based off of like what he can do to tilt the field.
Yeah, I mean, he'll open up things underneath for him. I look at the draft capital. You know, it was a second round pick, same shit as Andy Isabella. Kind of a similar player as Andy Isabella. I mean, like, that didn't work out. You know, I don't know how confident I am right now in a small receiver in that offense. So I like him though.
Let me tell you a draft story about the unfortunate Philadelphia 76ers in the draft process. One year, they took Nerlens Noel.
Nerlens.
Top 5 of
the Mavericks at one point.
The next year, they took Joel Embiid in the top 5 in the NFL draft.
They just said, fuck
NBA
it.
Draft. Right. He said, you know what? We made a mistake. Fuck it. Let's stick to our guns, and we're going to take the player comp that we want.
I mean, that worked out. So do you think that's the same as Andy Isabella and Rondale Moore?
I think it's a similar vibe. I mean, nobody's as good as Embiid. He fucking put up 30 and 10 with a torn meniscus. But
he's a beast. Anywho, Rondale Moore, I like the talent. He's a freak of fucking nature. People have no idea. Like, go watch some shit of him working out. He was literally 5'8", like 190 pounds, and he was like squatting like triple his body weight. Like, he's a complete freak of nature.
Got some like Tyreek Hill vibes with like how strong he is for his size.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's kind of like a mixture of like Hill and, you know, kind of like a Darren Sproulsy kind of guy. Like, he's so like jittery. Like, if you watch his tape, I mean, I see why the Cardinals took him. Like, there's just put him on the field and see what happens. Like, it could be worse.
If this guy turns into Tyreek Hill Jr. and fucking Dan ends up with him, I'm gonna be so pissed.
Well, now here's the let's pull this full circle with Alex, because Alex drafted Jalen Waddle thinking that he's going to be the next Tyreek Hill, which is the comp that everybody seemed to be giving Jalen Waddle pre-draft. Like, all the analysts was like, oh, he could be the next Tyreek Hill. What if he passed on him?
Or Deshaun Jackson vibes.
I don't even know what I think of Waddle. I am so iffy on Waddle that I just don't even know at this point. So I'm just gonna wait and see. To me, he reminds me of fucking Will Fuller, which is exactly what they already have.
It's kind of funny, isn't it?
So I don't really know. But anyway, Rondale Moore like has the potential to be that next great small speed receiver. That being said, he could be Henry Ruggs. You know, it just could be like anything. But I like his physical skill set.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep fucking that dead horse forever. Ruggs for Ruggs 2021. So anyway, and then Davis Mills.
Let's talk another athletic freak, Davis Mills.
Davis Mills. That makes I hate the fact that he went to Houston, because I actually really like Davis Mills as a prospect. I just think there's no chance he's ever going to be successful.
He was their first pick in the draft.
Yeah, I think it was him, and then it was Nico Collins like right after.
They signed Tyrod, and they said, you know what we need with our first pick to plug any hole in our team? We need another quarterback, which they do.
They kind of did.
Why would you do it with a third round pick and not just wait until your water trash team goes 0-17 this year?
I mean, well, that's the thing is it was a third round pick. Like the chances of any third round pick hitting are pretty low. And if they thought that he had a starter potential, like why not give it a shot this year and just see if he's anything? And if he's nothing, then you just fucking dump him.
Yeah, but they could have just drafted a running back to go with their other 9 running backs that they
Bill O'Brien isn't running this team anymore. Okay. I mean, here's the thing: is I really like some of the shit I saw from Davis Mills on tape. So like, I just wish he went anywhere else, because I just feel like this is just like you could already write in pen that Davis Mills is gonna have like a shit year, and then they're just gonna draft a quarterback at 1-1 next year or some shit. Like just because he's just not ready, and they'll throw him in there and just see what happens. Kind of like a Gardner Minshew type of deal.
What does this offense look like this year? Who's starting? So we got.
I think Tyrod Hill finds a way to like get injured, some freak shit with a doctor or something like that, and then Davis Mills plays. Yeah, exactly. I think that's what happens. I think some weird shit happens because it happens to Tyrod all the time. Like same thing when Baker came in, same thing when Herbert came in. Like there's something happens, and then Tyrod isn't the starter all of a sudden. That's exactly what I think is going to happen.
So not even the quarterback. I'm just talking about like offensive weapons. So they've got Cooks, they've got QT.
Yeah, they Randall Cobb,
and then they drafted
Collins.
Yeah, Nico Collins. So
and they picked up a tight end too, Brevin Jordan.
Not great. I
don't think it's good at all.
Cooks is usually a top 20 wide
fine.
receiver. Yeah.
He's
so
fine.
at least you got you got a baseline. You're alive.
Their offensive line is like average. They just don't excite me. I mean, they also have like Philip Lindsay. Like they have guys that are solid, but like they're not water trash. They're not like terrible.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the worst place to be, but this team is just not going to be good. Like the defense is trash. Like they lost JJ Watt. They lost top cornerback. Like I'm just not excited about the Texans whatsoever, especially without Watson. So moving on. Oh, sorry. What are we going to give this draft value wise? What do you think?
Are we accounting for the fact that he added a first round pick next year?
No, literally just the draft. Like, what do you think of the players?
Oh, okay.
I give it just like a B minus.
Okay.
Yeah. I give it a B minus just because if Rondale has the chance to boom, then this could be awesome, and we could be looking back at those trades that he made with Alex as just wild. Like holy shit! Like what the fuck was he doing?
Again.
So B minus for me. All right, next up. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Speaking of Alex, the London Silly Nannies. Lots of picks. 3 of those were from Dan in that trade, like we mentioned. So 1-1, Najee Harris had his pick of the litter. Could have picked Kyle Pitts. Could have picked Jamar Chase. He ended up going with Harris after spending a good majority of the weekend he spent before telling me that he wasn't taking Harris because he was too old. So here we are. He ends up taking him, basically plugging him right into his RB2 slot with DeAndre Swift. I mean, I think it's a fine pick. I mean, you can't really argue too much with the amount of touches he's going to get. So I think if it was me in his position, I would just taken Pitts and walk, especially after he traded, Andrews away. If it was me, I would have probably, in his situation, just went ahead with one of the receivers and just punted running backs again. But he went a different route. So what do you think, Najee Harris?
I think I wouldn't have taken any of the players in those spots that he took those players at.
I kind of agree. I mean, I was obviously lower on ETN because of my James Robinson bias. So I didn't have ETN as a top 5 player. And then Lawrence was ranked right around 12 on my board. So I was comfortable taking him in the second round. So 1.6 to me is too much of a reach, especially knowing that other guys in the league were probably not going to take a quarterback that high. I just didn't think it was necessary.
It's funny, like the two picks that I'm like, Harris I get. I wouldn't have taken him at 1-1. I also would have taken Javonte Williams at 1-1.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like Harris was not my number one player on my board at all. He was number 3.
I would have taken Harris at 3. I would have taken
Williams and Pitts.
Oh, I would have taken
Chase.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is Harris and Chase for me were a split. Like either one of them were the same to me. So ETN at 5 is the one I probably am the most skittish about because there is some bust potential there.
If this trash. Sorry, it's just
this trash.
Let's so say 1-1 is Javonte Williams. This is your draft, right? Javonte Williams 1-1. We go 1-5 to Devonta Smith, 1-6 Jalen Waddle, 1-8 Trevor Lawrence. How do you feel about that draft instead?
I feel pretty damn good about that.
Right? Okay.
I mean, that's just me though. I mean, I will say, as much as I'm like not sure what Jalen Waddle is going to end up as, getting him at 1-8 was nice. That was the best pick of this first round for sure. I just don't know what that's going to be, but like his draft capital is good. I think he fell probably a little further than most people expected. I thought he was going to go in like the top 6 for sure.
And to defend Alex just a little bit here, like anytime you've got the pick 1-1 and there's not an absolute consensus number 1 pick Saquon Barkley type, everybody's gonna have an opinion on like why that pick wasn't a good value. So,
but I think in a one running back league, most people would say that Najee Harris is kind of the consensus 1-1. Like not knowing Alex's situation in his team or anything like that. Like if you just looked at most, rookie mocks for one quarterback leagues on the internet, they'd all pretty much point to Najee Harris. I mean, it's not like he went against the grain of what other people were doing. It's just the way his rebuild has gone over the last few years. It just was shocking to see, and especially all the shit he talked about prior to the draft, that he was like punting on running backs and just blows running backs out of the water in the draft. Like we're just a little shocked. That's all. So let's keep moving along. So we talked about the first 4 round guys pretty extensively. I talked about Freiermuth a little bit. We talked about Stevenson. Stevenson was one of my sleeper backs. I just hate the landing spot.
Landing spot's not good. I mean, you got to hope that how fast can they get off of Sony Michel? How much longer is White going to be there?
They also have Damian Harris.
And that's the thing. Damian Harris isn't going anywhere.
He looked really good
last year.
Yeah, he was a guy I thought was just super underrated from last year.
So he's working towards trying to get into a timeshare. He's not even in a timeshare yet, which at 3.8, like when you're taking a running back, obviously you're looking for like a lottery ticket. But
yeah, there's no clear path to getting 10 carries a game right now. There's just no way I can see it happening unless he just blows it up, early in the season or something. But that being said, I like the talent. I actually had him rated as a back end of the second kind of guy before landing spots came out. So I like the talent. It's just a matter of, can he even do anything? But it's the end of the 3rd round. So, I mean, you can find, worse options. And I'm all about taking talent in these late rounds too.
If he goes to the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, dude, 2nd round pick for sure.
Where is he at?
So, I mean, if Michael Carter and some of these other guys went in the 2nd, like he's going in the 2nd. It'd probably be in the back end though. But that's right where I had him rated. So, yeah, I mean, the value is fine for 3.8, 4.1. Des Fitzpatrick, I thought this was pretty sneaky. It's a sneaky little pick because
it was a lot more sneaky before they traded for Julio.
I agree. But I think the fact that Julio's could be banged up, AJ Brown was kind of banged up for most of last year too. Like if they need a guy, like he's kind of the 3rd option right now, him and Josh Reynolds. Like I wouldn't be, I mean, like that's what I'm saying. Like he has a path to getting touches relatively soon, and it's 4.1, and he was a 3rd round pick in the actual draft. So everything kind of lines up for, some level of success. He kind of it's a shitty, it's kind of a shitty player to compare him to because he sucks. But like the situation reminds me of like a Traquan Smith, where like he has all of the right like things falling into place for him to get the touches. It's a matter of what he does with them. So I'd like to see what happens. I mean, as long as he sticks on Alex's team for a while. So not a bad pick there. So let's give this a draft grade. And once again, let's not bring into account any of the trades, which is super hard to do at this because the trades are really what I think bring down the draft. So I would give this just value-based drafting, probably a B. I can't give it any more than that.
Yeah, if we're adding on to like all the other like things that go along with this draft, I mean,
it goes down way faster.
It's like a C minus for me with that, but I agree it's probably B minus for me just based off of value because quantity kind of waters down the quality for some of these picks for me.
Yeah, I just the one that hurts the most to look at is Trevor Lawrence. Like as much as Alex needed a quarterback, just the value at 1.6 is just too much for the way I build my teams. I just wouldn't do it. So, all right, let's keep moving on. We got grades. So let's go to the Elk. We talked about this team. Like, where is he going? Picked all receivers, and then did make that trade for Irv Smith. So basically, all pass catchers. I'm not even so sure he needed to do this. I think this is just the way the board fell for him.
I agree. Because I like all of these picks.
Like I have nothing really bad to say about any of these. I thought the value of Devontae Smith at 1.7 could end up being the best value in the draft overall. I mean, just if he is anything like he was in college, this could be huge. And then Rashad Bateman, I was a little bit lower on Bateman than some people, but I still like him. I think 110. I actually didn't think he should have been a first round in the NFL draft. I thought it should have been a second round pick. But he ended up going to the first, and I'm not a giant fan of the Ravens until I see them change their offense. I wouldn't take Bateman at 110, but I understand why. The value in the draft capital is there. So I actually would have taken Elijah Moore over Rashad Bateman. I really like Elijah Moore.
So going back to, once again, going to continue to shit on Alex as we do, talking about like how he doesn't have a single receiver that's like just primed to be the number one receiver on their team, right? Look at these first three picks. Those three have just as good a chance, honestly, to be the number one on their teams.
Yeah, I mean, like Moore is the one that's the sketchiest because there are some other options on that team. But like Devontae Smith is going to be the number one receiver. Rashad Bateman is going to be the number one receiver.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of, and then you basically took Waddle at 1.8, who probably won't be the number one receiver. It's probably going to be Fuller.
He could be the third.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it that way, I mean, it could be a Parker
skill set currently. Like
he might be the fourth guy in the pecking order behind Gesicki. I mean, like he could get a quarter of the touches.
Tua likes to throw to tight ends.
Yeah, and I just don't know if like that's the thing is this whole Dolphins offseason has confused me slightly because I don't see. I mean, and it's just because the way they used Tua last year, like they literally protected him at all costs. I didn't see him like really rip any throws downfield and shit like that. And
he's got all the players to do that.
They picked this fucking high octane offense and not really a whole lot of like, possession-y kind of guys that fit more in my opinion, but maybe they're just going to unleash him and be like, here he is. And then now
they did the Denver Broncos last year where they're just like, all right, let's get all of the weapons. Here are all of your weapons. Like if
figure
you
it out
with this, then we're going to move on.
I agree. I totally agree. That's a great comparison. Anyway, back to the Elk here. Elijah Moore at 2.4, I think was a tremendous.
Great value.
I mean, he could have easily gone at 2.1. I would have taken him over Rondale Moore personally.
Also, getting some great camp buzz. I know we love camp buzz.
Yeah, camp buzz is everybody knows Eric likes camp buzz. That's how I found Pacific Ocean deep sleeper Denarius Moore from 2000 fucking whatever 9. The one that it sucks. Because I truly don't know. I just don't know is Kadarius Toney. I mean, like he was
but look at the value.
Has this ever happened though? A first round pick going 3.1?
I just like. Can you argue
never happened?
A first round pick in the third round that's not a quarterback?
That's what I'm saying. Like There's
So like, it's good value, even if he ends up like not panning out. Like you can't not take him there.
I mean, I had 2.10, but I could not take another Giants player. I just refused to do it. So his value on my board was 2.8, but there's just no way that I could have taken him. And I think there's no chance he should have really even made it here. He probably should have gone like 2.7 to 2.10, somewhere around there.
You should never take like a player that has draft capital just off your board completely, because I think that's
no, you can't.
It's like not drafting with your head. But he wasn't on my board, and I regret nothing.
He's just and I really honestly don't like the talent. I mean, like he's electric, but he drops passes. He doesn't really run routes. He kind of just fucking runs around the field. Like he's like Scott Potter. I've said this before. He reminds me of Scott Potter. He literally just doesn't know what he's doing. We all just know he's athletic, and he drops passes. So it's literally a perfect comparison.
Yeah, like a Percy Harvin kind of vibe.
But Harvin could catch and could run a little bit of routes. Yeah. Like Tony, he's literally an athlete. So I don't know. I thought it was a terrible pick by the Giants to start with. But he's a guy at 3-1. How do you say you can't just pass on the draft capital? It's the same thing that happened with me last year with Brandon Ayuk. I wasn't even a fan of him, but like he was a freaking first round pick, so I'm gonna have to take him. It's just necessary. So
great thing about fantasy football is that like we can just shit all over the Giants taking him as a first round pick, but then when our good friend Dustin takes that guy in the third round of our draft, it's like, man, the value, like great.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a chance this could boom, and he really ends up panning out. But right now, I see like a Cordero Patterson kind of player, and I don't think he's going to live up to the hype. So, anyway, so that's 3-1. The value's there. Larry Roundtree was not a big
running back. So.
I mean, I wasn't a big fan of him at all, really on tape, but I love the name. I love I think he could end up being the backup. Like there's a chance he could be the backup. So
little Larry Reginald Roundtree, if you will.
Exactly, a little from Channel 10 News. Good old days. Oh, sorry, I went too fast on that.
Went to elementary school with his son.
I know. He was in my Spanish class. So actually, I wasn't elementary school. I went to middle school with him. Anywho,
we're gonna rate this bitch. What you got?
I don't. I like these players except for Tony and Roundtree. So I like 3 of the players. Based on value, I gotta give this at least an A. I mean, I don't love Tony, so that just kills me. But like at the same time, 1.7 for Smith is great. 1.10 for Bateman is fine. 2.4 for Moore is excellent in my opinion. 3.1 for Tony, even though I don't like him, is still good value. Like if you're just drafting on best player available, this is the way to go. This is the draft. So I give him an A.
And I'm gonna bounce back to the Bateman pick. Like I am a firm believer that like they aren't getting the ball to the receivers because their receivers have been absolute trash.
Yeah, so they don't have anyone.
It's a culture thing. Like, are the passes not getting there because they don't like the quarterback, or because they don't have anybody?
They literally don't have anyone.
If you believe Rashad Bateman can make plays on the offense, then
I think Marquise Brown stinks. I've said it before. I don't think he's good. I think he only looks good because they force feed him the ball sometimes. Like I have no interest in Marquise Brown.
He drops the ball a lot.
I didn't even notice that. Like I just think he stinks.
He makes some really bad drops, like really bad timing on drops.
Maybe I really haven't spent, like, honestly, if there's a team on TV that I do not give a shit about the most, it's easily the Ravens. I don't care about the Ravens. They don't excite me whatsoever. I don't know if it's the players. Like, I like J.K. Dobbins, but like he wasn't even used a ton last year until the end of the year. So like when the Ravens are like on prime time, everybody's like, oh, look at Lamar. Like, I just don't give a fuck. I want to see something else. It's just not for me. Anyway, moving on. The battle axes, just a couple of fourth or late round picks here. That being said, kind of like all the picks. I like Zach Wilson at 3.7. I think I put it on the little ticker below. This gets some Justin Herbert vibes. Nobody really wanted Justin Herbert last year, and I feel like the same thing could happen with Zach Wilson. It's like good value at 3.7 just to see what.
He doesn't have to play for Adam Gase, and he's got some actually decent talent around him.
The offense isn't shit except for like running back, basically. I like Carter too. We'll get to that. but like outside of that, like he's got pass catchers to throw to, and the line is better than it's been in the last 5 years. So
Yeah, let's express this one though real quick.
I'll give him a shot.
So, I mean,
Hubbard, he's a backup. If you can get a handcuff at 310, that's about right. I think James got Darrington Evans last year at like 3.8 or something like that to back up Henry. I think that's where they should go. So good pick there. And then Schwartz. I mean, if you could draw up a 410 that fits better than Anthony Schwartz, you tell me, because this guy literally, he's like just a freak of nature athletically, and you just hope that he pans out to anything. So I like that.
All right, what do you rate?
And I give him like a B+ or something, just based on the fact that they're.
I'll give him a B.
Yeah, just value based at least. I like these guys. And then the Hurricanes. This is my favorite draft. So, I mean, you can't say enough about the top 2 guys that he pulled. I mean, he literally could have picked any of the top 3, and nobody would have said anything bad. Chase and Pitts are both elite prospects, blue chip prospects. Chase is one of the best running back or best receivers I've seen come out. Pitts might be the best tight end I've ever seen, honestly. I mean, there's just nobody that can do shit like he does. As on tape, he's produced in college. He broke out at an early age. He played in a great offense in the SEC. I mean, there's just nothing bad about Kyle Pitts. I just worry about the hype, because you take him at 1.3, he's got to be a top 5 player at the position. But that's the thing is Justin has TJ Hawkinson. So if he kind of falters early on, he's still got Hawk, who's going to be great this year, I think. So, I mean, this was all value. All these picks were all value picks.
Mm-hmm. I love 2-2.
Yeah. I really enjoy the 2-2 pick too. Like, I think Michael Carter is probably going to end up at least getting the majority of the carries at some point this year.
I think he will win the snap share by the end of the
He's so good out of the backfield, Sean. He's gonna be catching so many of those garbage time passes. Like, I like him a lot. This is a great draft. It's an A+.
Tevin Coleman looks like absolute dog shit. So
Coleman is the biggest trap there is in football. Like, he just never seems to stay healthy, and when he does play, I'm never like impressed with him. I have no interest in Tevin Coleman.
So he got I don't know, where would you rate Chase among like recent wide receiver talents that come out, like right up there? Right?
I mean, like, my first draft that I really paid attention to was the AJ Green draft. And like, to me, he was the ultimate prospect. Like, he's the guy I wanted to prototype. Just give me AJ Green's like tall, lanky receivers that go up and just fuck people in the air. I love that. And Chase is literally just a smaller version of like a DeAndre Hopkins. Like, he is just those kind of guys. Like, but the difference is he separates. So like Hopkins, if you watch him play, he really doesn't separate unless it's, like an out route or just like a comeback or something like that. Any deep passes, he's not separating. Chase is literally a 4-3 receiver that does all the same things that Hopkins does. So I would argue that he's at least in the top 3 of the best wide receivers I've seen.
Right. So you pair that with Pitts, and then you get I'm honestly, Michael Carter is going to be a startable running back this year.
Yeah. He'll be at least a flex player for sure.
So you get a starting wide receiver, tight end, and running back in your 3 picks.
You cover every position, and then he also traded for Tua. So you cover all that shit, and you picked up basically what could be a starter at every single position.
So I'm giving him an A+.
And his team was already good.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, this is a huge win for the Hurricanes. Now, I just hope it lives up to the hype. I would hate to see Pitts end up being like a shithead, and it should be so Justin though. I just hope it doesn't happen. A+ all around. The cheese fries, just a couple of late round picks. Mac Jones ends up in a, whether you want to think it's a good situation or not, I think it is. I mean, he's going to end up playing at some point soon this year, probably. And, he could be really good. I think he's a good fit in that offense. So like him. And then Atwell, I think, is a complete waste of a pick personally, but I think he's literally capital. You just drafted Trendon Holiday, basically. he's going to be a kick returner, and I can't see any real like. There's just no player that's ever been his size that's ever been successful.
I could see him getting like an end around like a couple times.
So he could be like Tavon Austin.
Yeah, I don't think he has. I don't think he has fantasy value. He's got value for that team. I mean,
yeah, he's a guy that's like a better real life player than fantasy player. Like he was completely off my board. I have no interest in him.
Yeah, I would agree. All right.
So I mean, value. I mean, I just give it a B, just because he took guys that were drafted high. So, and here we are at your team, the long game. So there's two guys on this list that I will just go out and say that I was huge fans of these players prior to the draft. Two of my favorite receivers, like sleeper receivers, Tylan Wallace and Seth Williams. I love both those guys.
The landing spot sucked.
Those landing, like Seth Williams of the Broncos was ass. He fell so far on my board. I think he was in the 50s, which would have been like the practice squad draft for me. But he has more upside than a lot of players that were picked before him, like Tutu, like Des Fitzpatrick, some of those kind of guys. Like I like Seth Williams way more talent wise. Tylan Wallace was a easy no-brainer mid-second round pick for me prior to the draft. And I was like desperately going to target him at 2.5. Then he goes to the Ravens, where I'm not really sure what the fuck's going on there, passing game wise. And they drafted Rashad Bateman, so there's probably not going to be a lot of first wide receiver 1 targets for Tylan Wallace. That being said, that man is a dog, and I thought he was the next coming of Steve Smith. I thought he was just like one of those kind of guys that will just bite your face off, and he just made plays for his size. I love Tylan Wallace. So I think any other landing spot, he's a second round pick. So to take him at 3.9 is as good of a lottery ticket as you're ever going to see in the third round. Huge fan of him. And then Eskridge, truthfully, didn't really have much interest in him in that landing spot, just because they kind of have a similar asset in Tyler Lockett. But maybe in a couple of years, Lockett
Draft
leaves
capital.
or something. Good draft capital too. So you're just kind of and you're just shooting, at the end of the fourth round or middle of the fourth round. So 2.9, Justin Fields. I'm a fan of Justin Fields. Fell way too far in the real NFL draft. I mean, you just with these quarterbacks that give you, legs, you just got to take your shots on these guys and hope one of them hits. I mean, because if he ends up being what people think he can be, he's a top 10 quarterback.
He'll be the starter by week 3.
Yeah, there's no chance Andy Dalton, like, especially just to save Nagy's job. Like, dude, there's no way.
First 2 games of the year, game 1 at the Rams.
I think Dalton gets slaughtered, and week 2 Fields is starting.
Week 2 they play the Bengals, so I think they give Dalton the start against the Bengals.
I think the Bengals defense stinks, and they let Fields play against a bad team.
I don't know. I feel like Andy Dalton's going to find a way to get himself to start that game. I feel like
maybe the homecoming game. You never know. All right. Well, all right. I'll give you that. But anyway, we'll put it this way. I don't have Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence that far apart, like in my rankings. I had Justin.
Are you saying I can get 2 first-round picks for Justin Fields?
That's what I'm saying to you. Is
right.
that you didn't need to do this, Alex. It's like, I just feel like you could have. I mean, and Fields arguably, like, I mean, I might sound stupid, but just because of his legs, maybe he has more upside, than Trevor. Like, I mean, Lawrence has legs too. Like, don't get me wrong, he can move, and I think he actually is an asset as, like, a 1-yard quarterback sneak kind of guy. Like, he might end up doing that quite a bit. But Justin Fields athletically is more gifted than Trevor Lawrence is. So there's a chance that Fields could end up being the best fantasy player out of those two, even though that Lawrence could be awesome. He might just not be the same level of fantasy player. Same thing with Lance. It's like the same thing. Like, both of those guys kind of just have that upside for fantasy that I want, as opposed to maybe some guy that just slings it around. So I love the 2.9. It's hard to find guys like this at 2.9. So, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just don't think he's going to be a wide receiver 1. He might not even be a wide receiver 2. I think his ultimate cap, if he hits every little bit of his potential, he could be Robert Woods. If he kind of doesn't hit that potential, he could end up. I mean, well, obviously that would be great. You'd love that. But if he doesn't hit that potential, he could end up being like a Steve Smith Sr. Kind of guy was for the Giants, where he's there, but he's not like a sexy asset. That being said, he's going to be in line for touches. He's going to get on the field quite a bit. So
yeah, just went for the void of targets there. Like, can he beat out like Perriman? I feel confident. Like,
yeah, I think he's going to get on the field. It's just a matter of what he does with those targets, because I think he's talented. I just don't think he's flashy or does anything special. So that's okay in the second round. Like that's why he's in the second round. So good value. I was kind of more on the back end of the second, early third, but that's fine. So yeah, I think we covered everybody. So if it was my draft grade, I love a few of these guys. So I'm going to be a little bit biased. I'd give this probably a B plus, just because I don't see a ton of flash. Like, I don't see a guy that I'm like, holy shit. Like, maybe Fields, if Fields pans out to be like, a top 10 dynasty asset, then I'm giving it an A easily. But right now I'd give it a B plus.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving on to the Swallows. I like this draft a lot. This might be one of my favorites. Like, I love all these players. I was a big Trey Sermon fan prior to the draft. His landing spot may be a little wishy-washy with a couple of guys right now, but maybe next year, like if Mostert leaves. And I mean, I love the player, so I would take the talent there. We talked about Williams pretty extensively. Mm-hmm. Amari Rodgers looked real good prior to all the Aaron Rodgers bullshit. That being said, I really think he's a good player anyway, and I don't think it matters too much. And that team just needs a third receiver. So I think he's going to get on the field fast. And
did you see that report that Rodgers might, like, if he's coming back, it'll be by like week 3 or week 4? Did you see that?
I haven't seen anything about that, to be honest with you.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I remembered that correctly, but I don't know. That whole situation's like,
it's just so muddy, dude. Like, I have no idea. I mean, now I'm a Davante Adams owner, so of course I'm asking for him to go back, but like, I just don't see it happening. Like, it seems weird. But a guy like Rodgers, you're not drafting that 2-6 expecting to count on him or anything like that. He's kind of an upside pick, and I think he's really talented. I think he's going to end up being a really good slot receiver in the NFL. Kind of like a Randall Cobb kind of guy. So fits really well with the old Aaron Rodgers, but we'll see if he comes back. And then 3-6, to me, this is one of my favorite values in the draft. I was a huge Josh Palmer supporter. He was the most underrated receiver talent-wise in this whole class. He actually had some of the best tape against the SEC cornerbacks he played in that terrible fucking Tennessee Volunteers offense. He ended up beating J.C. Horn. He beat Patrick Surtain II for jump balls in their games. This is a guy that screams Keenan Allen to me, and they already have Keenan Allen on the Chargers. So like, I love the fit. I think he might not be good this year, but Mike Williams is in a contract year. If he bounces, Josh Palmer could easily be a wide receiver 2 next year for that team.
Yeah, I don't see Williams getting extended or re-signed. So I think
he kind of sucks.
And when he inevitably only plays 9 to 10 games this year, I think there's going to be opportunity. So
yeah, I am on the Josh Palmer train, and I also was kind of looking at him in that mid-third round when I traded Tua. It was kind of between him and Tommy Tremble for that 3-3, because I just felt like Palmer had the upside that some other players didn't have. So I love this draft. This is like an A for me for sure.
Same.
I love all the value. Love all the trades he made. Everything looks good to me. Oh, look, and then it's my draft. Sean, what do you think about my draft?
This freaking guy, I wanted Trey Lance, De'Ami Brown. Literally, I think I got sniped by you like 2 or 3 times, which is impressive in this draft. But I can't, like, Trey Lance this year, I can't imagine that, like, if he starts, you're getting a quarterback with legs. We've already talked about. I see him outpacing the rest of the quarterbacks in this draft class, just like in his first few years, just because of his athletic profile and the offense that he's in. So, I mean,
Yeah.
getting 2-4 is like great value. That gives you the ability to then trade away Tua and get a couple of picks. You end up with
some lottery tickets.
Yeah. De'Ami Brown is solid too. We'll see. Like long term, it's tough to say because you don't know who the quarterback is going to be in the future for Washington. But I mean, if he gets on the field this year, he's going to have an opportunity because Fitzpatrick will throw the ball to anybody that's running down the field. So.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is that really talked to me in my head about Brown was just the fact that he is so good with the deep ball, and who loves to sling it more than Fitzpatrick? So I figure, you know, he could be kind of like a sleepery kind of guy. You know, I didn't want to take Tony over him. Frankly, at 210, I was really hoping for a guy like Amari Rodgers, one of those, you know, falling second round assets. But I was fine with De'Ami Brown.
I was between Brown and Amon-Ra. So
yeah, I would have taken Amon-Ra probably before Brown. So
I figured if I wanted to try and get value this year, because I hadn't traded for Tyreek Hill yet, then I should probably go with St. Brown instead.
Yeah, just get somebody that's going to get guaranteed touches. I see what you're saying.
But I do like De'Ami Brown too. I think
he's got upside.
He was just super dynamic, but it was only on one side of the field. I think he was just
he's kind of stuck to one side of the field. I noticed that too.
I don't know if that's scheme or what.
And not only that too, but his hands kind of stink. Like he kind of dropped a lot of passes, and he reminds me of a lot of a player I loved last year's Jalen Reagor. So I might have busted twice, but we'll see. I still have hope for Reagor, but who knows?
But it's good like down the road thinking. I think all of these players, like you're gonna have to hold on to them for a couple of years to like really understand what their value is gonna be. But I feel like
fits my team though, so
yeah, you're not gonna have to wait forever though. You're gonna get an idea at some point, especially like taking a tight end in the third round. Like that's always
you're always a 2-year project.
If it's a first round tight end, you're usually waiting for a year or two. So
yeah, it's a long-term thing. Any tight end you take in any rookie draft, you can't expect shit from him for at least like 2 years. All right, so you can give me a grade, I guess.
I'm gonna give it right back to you with the obligatory B+. All
right, that's fair enough. Hype each other up a little bit. And I believe that is the end of our draft review, trade review, you know, just what's happened the last couple months. So we will try to get back with you guys again. We'll have a couple other ideas. We had the Dynabook idea. I kind of want to do like a state of the league kind of thing after the draft, just to see what some rosters look like. Maybe I'll take some screenshots of the sleeper rosters just to throw them up on the screen. We can talk about some, you know, maybe updated power rankings. We could do a power ranking show, something like that. Because things have changed so much, specifically with like Tibbs and some other teams, that we could probably update those too. So thanks for being on here with me again. This is episode 14. We're just ripping through these. Just ripping through them. So we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye.